Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
I am heading to Kentucky this weekend for the Kentucky Free Thought Convention in Erlanger, Kentucky. The tickets are really inexpensive. It's just one day. But I'm going to be speaking there. Sam McGuire of American Atheist, Liz Cavell from Freedom from Religion, and others. And I'm bringing some fresh material. So it's going to be a good time. KentuckyFreeThought.org. If you want to get some tickets, and I'd love a chance to see you in Kentucky. I had to chuckle to myself. Natalie sent me this thing, and she goes, I can't believe that it wasn't you who posted this on Facebook. So I hit the link, and it was a meme, and it said, in every relationship, there is one person who stacks the dishwasher like a Scandinavian architect, and one who stacks it like a raccoon on crystal meth. And I'm like, yeah, I would have posted that had I known it existed, because this is a conversation we've been having for a long time. I mean, we laugh when we talk about it. But I am always having to reload the dishwasher. Like, Natalie is so meticulous in her regular life, right? But there's something about the dishwasher. And I'll see it, and the bowls are so close together that no water or soap can get in there. And then you can't put coffee cups on their side. You're not going to get clean on the side. And the way everything's just jacked in there, and as I take it out and I put it back in correctly. And I'm not super hyper organized. I'm certainly not OCD where everything has to be in its certain spot, but it just bugs me. I'm like, honey, what's going on here? And she just smiles. She just thinks it's hysterical, you know? And so anyway, she is the raccoon on crystal meth. And then I, the Scandinavian architect, have to come by and it's almost like she sat at the other end of the room and she took the dishes and just threw them, and there it lands in the dishwasher. And I know if you don't know someone who does this, you probably are someone who does this. Quit it. Stop it. Killing me. Life's too short to have to refill the dishwasher dishes. You know, life's short. You're wasting valuable time. Anyway, a total digression. Next week, I am releasing 2 conversations, because I had 2 separate conversations with an ex-pastor. And this guy's got the inside scoop. You know what I'm saying? This guy has been there. He has done that. And he's got decades of experience in the ministry. And his story is just fascinating. And the history of that is he and I knew each other when we were both devout believers 30 years ago. And so our paths crossed again. And before you know it, he ends up in my house. And at first I put some cameras on him and we talked. And then we had lunch and I came back and he's like, let's talk some more. And I was like, I'd love to. So I put up the podcast microphones and we did another hour. And there was almost no overlap in our conversation. And so both of those are going to drop next week, video to YouTube and the podcast to, of course, all of my podcast platforms. I thought about releasing the YouTube audio on podcast as well, but I don't want to drive you crazy with so much audio in a week. You tell me, do you want to hear the second conversation? I can always throw that out there. I just secured an October interview with Phil Noble Jr. If you don't know who Phil is, he is the editor-in-chief of Fangoria magazine. Now, I grew up with Fangoria. And if you don't know what it is, just trust me, it's appropriate for the Halloween season. It's appropriate for the month of October. And so just on a lark, I had seen Phil on a documentary series, and I reached out and I'm like, look, I know it's totally not really your lane, but I like to do Halloween stuff, and I subscribe to Fangoria even today. But if you ever want to talk about horror movies, and we're talking about 1980s VHS horror to whatever released into theaters last week, if you want to get into scary stuff and the culture, I want to get into the satanic panic and everything, just let me know. I'd love to have you on the show. And he's like, I'm down. Let's go. Let's talk. So that's coming up in the month of October, along with our annual Ghost Stories podcast. I'm preparing the yard for Halloween. I am that house on the block. You know, that house where you're like, okay, here we go. Not for Christmas. No, I can't do it for Christmas. We have decorations for Christmas. And it's not religious at all. It's lights, and we have these big deer, and I make a pond with LED lights. It looks like they're drinking from the pond, and it's lovely. But there's no nativity or angels or any of that stuff. I thought about doing a zombie nativity. Have you seen those on the news? Because it makes the news every time somebody does one. So they put out the nativity for Christmas, but the baby Jesus is like undead. It's this rotted away corpse of a baby. And then you've got zombie Joseph and a zombie Mary, and the wise men are shambling in. And maybe even the animals are decayed in their flesh. And it's a zombie nativity. Every time somebody does one of these, their neighborhoods always flip out. And they're like, this is offensive to Jesus. I don't want this in my neighborhood where the children can see it. You know? And then the news always gets involved, and they bring out their cameras and vans, and they're like, a local resident has caused serious controversy when he put a nativity in his front yard, populating the nativity with zombies. Maybe they do an on-screen poll, call this number and tell us what you think. Is it free speech or an offense to God? I've thought about it. Natalie would never let me do it. Like, just the grief alone. She's like, no, no. But I am preparing for Halloween, and we're going to do the Wizard of Oz again at my house. We did it 2 years ago, built a spinning 10-foot tornado just out of tubes. We just twirled a bunch of tubes and spray painted it with metal glitter, and I put a little motor at the bottom so it spins. And then there's a fog machine, which causes the debris at the bottom. It looks like debris coming up. I've had that tornado in my backyard for 2 years. Like, I couldn't throw it out. I put too much time into it, and it's too awesome. What am I going to do with it? I'm like those people. Actually, I am those people who start to store Halloween decorations in the attic, and it stacks up over time. There's a section of my attic where I have stashed 6 skeletons, plastic skeletons. If somebody was to ever buy this house and they were to go up and take a look around the corner, it would look like that was where I hid the bodies. I have heard about people who put in a new kitchen, or they replace the walls, the sheetrock in a room in their home, and just for kicks, they will hide a skeleton inside, and then they will plaster over it or put lumber, sheetrock, whatever over it, knowing that at some point there will be a renovation in 15, 20 years. Someone is going to discover. Someone's going to be like, holy shit, there's a skeleton in the walls. That is my bag. I saw one where they were putting carpet over an old wood floor, but before they laid the carpet pad and the carpet itself, they painted a pentagram. I mean, they weren't Satanists. They just thought it was awesome. And they took red paint and they painted a pentagram on the wood floor, and then they laid carpet over it before they sold, expecting that at some point somebody was going to replace the carpet and feel like they had been living in the home or the guest home of Satan. That's my jam. I mean, that is my kind of humor. And there are people who would have then said, well, the reason little Kimmy got sick was because there was a pentagram in the floor. The reason I lost my job 8 years ago and had to get a new one. The reason the lawnmower wouldn't start every summer. The reason that our water tastes kind of funny in this house. It's because it's the devil. Those people exist. And anyway, I always post pictures and video on my Facebook page. So we're going to do Wizard of Oz again. I'm resurrecting the Twister. We're going to have the witch. Dorothy's going to be in a little house with Toto. I'm making a yellow brick road that's going to have little neon borders so it kind of glows. One of our neighbors said that she'd like to maybe tie in to our theme. She's talking about maybe doing the Emerald City. And if that's the case, then I'm going to take a can of spray chalk and I'm going to make that yellow brick road leave our house and then kind of zigzag to the other 3 houses and end at hers at the Emerald City so the kids can all walk the yellow brick road. And any pictures, if it all comes together, and I think it will, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm kind of ready. I'm done with summer. I'm sick of 105 degrees and 5,000% humidity. I'm tired of sweating. I'm tired of it being so freaking hot that I can't walk the dogs because the sidewalks and the asphalt are frying pans. They just burn their paws. So I got to take Linus. We have a routine. You want to go outside? You want to go outside? You want to go? You ready? Got to go? Instead of us walking out, I have to pick him up and I walk him down to this field and I sit him on the grass. The problem is after he goes, he wants to go walk on the asphalt. You can't do that, buddy. You're going to get burned. No. So now I'm reeling him back in on the leash like I'm pulling in a fish. No, don't go out. No, bad dog. Actually, I never say bad dog. I just say don't do that. And then, I pick him up, walk him to the next section, sit him down, and then I talk to him like I'm an idiot. Come on, hurry up. Come on. I know you're not done. You haven't pooped in 3 days. You're just going to explode. And I don't want it to happen in the master bedroom. Actually, he's never gone 3 days. It's just funnier that way. A little peek into my pathetic world. Coming up next, we're going to take a peek into your world as we go to the switchboard. Hang on. My patrons get the show early and commercial-free. Thank you so much for your support. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. I've got Ellen at 732. Can you hear me?
I can, Seth. How are you?
Ellen, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Jersey Shore. I'm here in New Jersey, this lovely blue state where we still have our abortion rights here and our reproductive rights, so can't complain. But I am really nervous about this election coming up. I actually have a chronic illness, unfortunately. I have something called endometriosis. Last year, I had major surgery for it. It's essentially the lining of your uterus attacks the inside of your body and attaches itself to your organs, which is not fun at all. It's chronic. You can't do anything about it. And the way to treat it is you have to take birth control. There is no getting around it. You have to take it. Unfortunately, also with this disease, even if it's, I don't have it at the moment, it can grow back, and it does, even with the removed. Unfortunately, it can lead to a lot of complications if you try and get pregnant. I know I have a higher chance of miscarriage. I have a higher chance of ectopic pregnancy, high-risk pregnancy. And I think with this election will determine if I want to, in a year or two, try and have a kid. I am afraid. I'm terrified. everything is just still so close. And like, what are our chances of winning? Like, I just wanted your feedback.
I'm not superstitious, but I talk to Natalie and we both say we don't want to jinx it, because what we're seeing
Yeah.
is enthusiasm and positivity and intelligence and kindness and strength. And I mean, is it perfect? No. The people who were talking about Palestine and some of the other issues, they have a good point. But I'll tell you right now, for us, it's not even close. And we are ebullient that there is an adult in the room. I think Kamala Harris in a debate will just mop the floor with Donald Trump. I think the enthusiasm that she and Tim Walz have generated in this country, we're seeing a surge in voter registrations. I just posted a News Nation poll that said that the 18 to 29 crowd is like 3-1 Kamala. Honestly, I'm surprised it's not higher. And they are more and more registering to participate. They're getting ready for November. I have this, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it, Ellen, but I'm saying I want to see, I want it to be overwhelming. I don't want it to be, oh, it's 53 to 47, right? I want it to be a mandate, something that no one can deny, even though he's going to deny it. I want a statement made about the values we hold, the protection of the very rights you've been talking about. So I'm like you, I'm encouraged, but I think we got to keep our eyes on the target, not give up. These people are slimy. They're capable of anything. We got to just keep on. But have you seen the ad? It's not an ad, is it? It's a video, a short video from the Lincoln Project regarding reproductive rights. The father's driving his daughter and the cop pulls him over. Have you seen that yet?
I just saw a snippet of it. I know some people don't use Twitter, but I saw it on Twitter. No, now they call it X, right? But I didn't watch the whole thing.
No, it's Twitter. It will always be Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't care what he does. It's freaking Twitter. It's Twitter. All right, keep going. Keep going. I'm sorry. So you saw a snippet of it on Twitter.
True. I did.
It's chilling, and it speaks to exactly what you've been talking about here. So my short answer is I'm on your page. I think we keep kicking. We try to maintain some hope. And my hope is that maybe sanity will prevail.
Me too, Seth. I'm really crossing our fingers here.
We'll just keep working and kicking in the hopes that saner heads will prevail. Okay, my friend?
Absolutely, Seth. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Oh, it's an honor. Thanks so much for calling. We'll see you soon.
Bye, Seth. Have a good day.
The Lincoln Project. I don't know much about them, except I do follow the content that they produce online. They are conservative Republicans who reject Donald Trump and MAGA cult. And they say this is not the party of Lincoln. This is not the Republican Party that we signed up for. And we can have a conversation about what that even looks like. But the headline is they are, very much advocates for a pluralistic democracy. They are against Christian nationalism. They're against a culture of cruelty. They are pro-LGBT rights. They're pro-female reproductive choice. And they post a lot of very polished content on the internet. And they just released a short-form video scenario where a cop pulls over a car inside. The father is driving. His daughter is in the passenger seat. Now, a lot of this is sort of reinforced visually as you see their expressions. But let me play you the audio and see if it gives you the chills in the way it gave me the chills.
Driver's license, registration.
Here you go, sir. How's your day going?
That's your daughter?
Sure is.
Abigail, right?
How do you know her?
Were you about 8 weeks pregnant? So you've been spotting recently. You've had any cramps or nausea?
That's personal.
You been taking your prenatal vitamins?
Excuse me?
Are you ticketing me for something?
Where are you heading, Abigail?
To go see my older sister, Natalie.
Well, that's strange. It says here that Natalie's at a concert in Dallas. And your navigation is set to a women's health clinic in one of those abortion states.
We have the right to travel.
Not anymore. Step out of the car.
Please, officer.
Both of you out now. You, sir, are under arrest for crossing state lines to obtain an abortion for a minor under your care. And you, young lady, well, you're under arrest for evading motherhood.
I'll put the link to that in the description box in case you want to watch the video of it. But, I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to say hashtag Handmaid's Tale, a totalitarian regime where people are controlled by the zealots, the theocrats, the people who acquire obscene amounts of power and use that power to control the lives of supposedly free people. I think that's legitimate. That's a legitimate concern, and we're facing a choice on that coming up in a few months. And my listeners right now who are going to line up in the comments and complain about the fact that Seth Andrews always goes after Trump and MAGA and gets political, shut up. I'm so sick and tired of people saying, well, I wish you wouldn't get political. Everything's political. The choices we have, the choices we are allowed to make, that we are free to make, bodily autonomy, the health and wealth and safety of our fellow human beings, our jobs, our paychecks, regulation, the economy, the environment, climate, whether or not we are able to freely go in and go out to marry or partner or be with or love or have whatever children and raise our children in whatever way. If we decide to have children, in all of our life choices, everything's political. Everything is political. If you are so privileged that you can just sort of say, I don't get political, shut up. Just shut up. I know I'm supposed to be the Mr. Rogers of the movement. I'm supposed to be super kind about this. Just shut up. God, just leave such a bad taste in my mouth. Just take that shit elsewhere. I'm just done with it. 931, Jeremy, are you there?
I am here, Seth. How are you?
I am well. What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, no, I just want to say thanks first off. Since I realizing I'm an atheist back in 2021, your voice and your program have been a source of constant happiness. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I have such a stupid follow-up question or subject to talk about after that woman serious thing. But I have issues listening to songs from the past that I now know as an atheist that are Christian. Like I went and saw a band a couple weeks ago, and they played one of my favorite songs, and he said, oh, this song was about me having an argument with God and how we resolved it, and how it used to be one of my favorite songs. Now I can't stand it. Does that make me weird? Or
no, it doesn't make you weird. It's funny. I grew up loving Christian music. And people will ask me, well, do you ever listen to it now? And my answer is always, nah, I don't seek it out. There are a few songs that I might hear that take me to a certain memory, a certain fondness for a time in my life, a chapter. But when I know that it's selling lies as truth, and that much of it is part of the marketing machine, right? It's Christian retail. It's what's become a multi-million dollar industry. I have a difficult time enjoying it. So, yeah, we were watching a documentary the other day about singer-songwriters, the people behind the scenes who write music for the biggest stars in the world, but nobody knows the songwriters' names. And they were talking to the guy who wrote Jesus Take the Wheel. So I went from, oh, man, look at this amazing talent. Oh, how wonderful these people are. Look at how, oh, wow, beautiful voice. They deserve to be a star. I was just all in. And the second he started singing Jesus Take the Wheel, I'm like, shit, that's the dumbest song I've ever heard. And I don't know. I'll ask you, Jeremy, was I being pedantic, or can you relate to that?
I can relate to that too. Yes, I can.
I don't think it's dumb. Music is a preference. Listen to what you want, and if it rubs you the wrong way, there may be a reason it rubs you the wrong way. So I wouldn't sweat that too much.
I believe a good song is a good song no matter what. So, yeah, but I agree. Thank you.
And there are some Christmas songs, right? I love "Oh Holy Night." I love the melody. I love sort of the haunting production of it when it's done a certain way. The piano work, whenever it's produced with piano, it just gives me the chills. But I don't believe that Jesus was born in a manger, so I can compartmentalize that. But, it's song by song, situation by situation. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Don't beat yourself up. Just listen to what you love, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yes. See you later. Kimmy at 512. What's going on, Kimmy? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, so I'll try to give the Reader's Digest version because it's a lot, but the breakdown is that I am younger for a person to get this type of illness that I have. I have a type of cancer called multiple myeloma, and it never goes away. It's just something that I take medicine for now, but I had to go through the hospital, the chemo, and I actually read Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot when I was recovering, and it really got me, it brought me into a happy place, just out of a lot of people bring prayers and they focus on religion in times like that. And I'm part of a Facebook group that is a community of people who have this disorder, this cancer. And a lot of them are older. And a lot of them, oh my gosh, every other day, there's religious posts. And I don't know, I can be respectful. I was raised in a very religious family, so I can be respectful to religious people, but it's difficult to be that voice of reason and say, hey, you're giving all this glory to God, which is, your thing, do you? But at the same time, how about all this fantastic, scientific background work that has literally extended our lives from 5-year prognosis to a 25, 30-year prognosis,
So when you read the part of the book where we talked about people thanking God that the chemo was working, that must have really hit.
Absolutely. Even though whatever spirituality, religion you have behind everything, when you're going through it, I sat with nurses. I sat with doctors. People held my hand while I was sick that were in the medical field. And those people are heroes. Those people are, like you wrote in your book, those are the people who are there day to day. They're doing the hard work. They're heavy lifting. It's like the old adage that I used to hear all the time, trust in God, but lock your car. Yeah, sure. If you have faith, great.
That's a T-shirt. Hang on. Trust in God, but lock your car is that. Actually, that sounds like a country song, like Jesus Take the Wheel. Coming up next, trust in God, but lock your car by so-and-so. What is multiple myeloma? And share only as much as you want. Can you describe what we're talking about? I don't know that I've ever heard of it.
Oh, sure. So it's a cancer that affects the cells in your bone marrow that make your immune system. So I had to go through a stem cell transplant where they took my marrow, my blood, they cleaned it, and then after they took that initial blood draw, a couple of weeks later, they brought me back in and gave me 6 months of chemo in 30 minutes. Killed my entire bone marrow system. Killed my immune system. And then in the height of COVID, I'm in the hospital in a room that's 500 square feet. Only my mom and my aunt could come visit me. And they had to go through washing their hands and all this stuff. Everybody had to be very, very careful around me because essentially they had to reboot my immune system. But the cancer attacks your immune system. So there's a lot of political stuff that went on too, where I had to wear a mask in public. I still wear a mask a lot of times in public because I can get sick really easily. And when I get sick, if I get a cold, it gets me down for 2 weeks because my immune system is so weak. I have the immune system of a toddler. So it's crazy. But that's multiple myeloma. It attacks your immune system and it stays with you. It's kind of one of those things where I'm in remission now. I'm on a maintenance medication, but it's going to come back. And it's just a matter of that's the fantastic thing about the science. I might not have to go through chemo next time. I might just have to be able to take a different medicine regimen, or, maybe go get a few shots or a few inductions at the center. That's where all this new medicine comes in. It's great. But most of the people who get it are in their 60s and 70s. In fact, the demographic that gets it the most are elderly Black men. And I am none of those things. So it's a very different community. And
when you say that people are bringing their prayers and Jesus loves yous, is it just them trying to express that they care? Or do you feel like there's some agency behind it? Are they preaching to you? Or I don't know. I mean, are you gauging intent? Can you give me the situation?
Yeah, on Facebook, it does feel quite preachy. And the leader of the Facebook group, he has gotten in a couple of times to say, I'm a person of faith, and that's him. That's cool. But he says, this is a little over the edge, guys. Like, tone it down a little, It's so many people just giving. It's almost like they don't believe. They literally do not believe they would have gotten through it without God. And there are people within the group from all over the world. They might not necessarily even be Christian. They might not be atheists either, but they might be Hindu. They might be Muslim, and that's a whole different vibe. And, to some people, a very different God. And that infighting, sometimes I kind of get that vibe on the group. Like, most of the posts are positive, but a lot of them are almost defending their beliefs that well, I couldn't have gotten through without this, so none of you could have gotten through without it.
What I worry about is that they're weaponizing your tragedy to become their soapbox, right? They're standing on your situation to be able to chest thump about whatever apologetic or belief or superstition they've embraced. And right now, I mean, if Natalie was here, just picture me, Natalie, Linus, Gracie, and Kat. We are all coming through the internet line, and we are all hugging you right now. We're just wrapping our arms and paws around you at this moment. Are you doing okay today? Is there anything you need from us as a community? How can we help you? Anything?
Just this conversation helped a lot, just to kind of vent a little bit about that. It's thankfully I haven't felt so much like they've used my tragedy as a bullhorn as much as they're performing it's almost like with that tradition, if you suffer and you make it through, you have to tell everybody that that's why you made it through. Like the evangelizing part of it, I guess. And I'm definitely not an evangelist, and I'm definitely not I try to be a little bit of a science evangelist. Like if I see people, there's so many people who are like, oh yeah, you don't have to do this procedure. You don't have to listen to your doctor. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, these are professionals. I'm going to listen to my doctor rather than somebody's uncle on Facebook. That's just how life has to be.
So when you're sharing your story, they're saying, oh, I remember when I went through something and Jesus helped me through.
Yeah. And it's not only that, it's that Jesus is the only reason I'm alive today. And you need to get right, or else, that's going to change for you.
Okay. All right. Now we've got a boundary violation, Kimmy. Now we got somebody who's stepping way into personal territory, and that's when I get pissed. And I think it's just fine if you get pissed as well. I mean, because now it's, well, if you don't recover, or if you have a bad day, or if you end up in chemo again, or if the worst happens, it's because you were not in league with the Father, or you didn't have his covering, his blessing, whatever. That's not appropriate. I think that's really kind of offensive. And I think you have every right to push back against that, to shut that down, to walk away from it, to block it. You don't have to watch. You don't have to listen to that, because that's not, hey, we care about you. It's, oh, turn or burn. Really, it's a variation of that. And so, I mean, if I was standing over your shoulder when that stuff came onto your computer monitor, I'd be the person going, hey, you don't have to put up with that. Like I would totally be your cheerleader on that score, Kimmy. I'd be like, don't you, if you mess with Kimmy, you mess with all of us, man. It's on. We would have your back. I promise you that.
Thank you.
we are on your page. We're on your side. And, I think we have high hopes that science and human connections, human support will provide everything that you need moving forward. And it's my hope that you have a good, long, and full and fulfilled life ahead of you despite these challenges. Thanks for sharing your story with me, and thanks for encouraging me. Hell, we ought to be encouraging you, Kimmy, for Pete's sake, and yet you're throwing the goodness our direction. But you're greatly appreciated, so big hugs from me and my family and all of us to you, okay?
Thank you, and, thanks for your kind words, and just, it's one of those examples of you never know what stuff you do that's going to ripple down the line, like your book brought a smile to my face in a very difficult time, and I appreciate that. And I was able to make other people that I was sitting in the chairs with in chemo smile with, I was in New York, so, there was a guy wearing a Yankees hat, and he was an elderly man who lived by himself, and he had lost his wife, and it was just you reach out for that connection, and you never know what little thing can help make someone's day. So I'm glad that I got to share that with you, and glad to have let you know that you got to make my day that way.
Kimmy, don't you make me cry. Don't do it. Don't do that. All right, my friend. Well, let's talk again. You keep us sort of in the loop on your journey in the months and years ahead, okay?
Thank you so much, Seth. You take care.
All right, thanks a bunch. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Holy cow. I don't even know what to do with that, except say thank you. I've got Josh 317. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
The main thing I called about was with Kamala Harris saying putting Tim Walz as her vice president pick. I don't know if you've heard, but Republicans, at least the ones in my family, have been going crazy about him, saying that he's a predator. Because back when he was a coach at the school he was coaching for, he headed up a club for a bunch of gay adolescents back in 1999. And at the time, it was pretty dangerous for anybody to come out like that because, it was a different time. The internet wasn't as vast. Information was flowing the way it is today. And so they're all calling him a predator for some reason. And I've looked up all this and haven't found any evidence to it. And so my thought is just because he's defended gay people before, now they're calling him a predator for no reason but that.
No, they got nothing.
So
anybody who is not essentially a white hetero evangelical is a predator, probably a sexual predator in the eyes of these people. They have no bottom. There's no conscience. They are many of them are just absolute sociopaths. I swear pretty much the entire Fox News lineup is just freaking killing me. These people are libeling and slandering good people on the left or elsewhere, and essentially trying to align them with everybody from Jeffrey Dahmer to Adolf Hitler to a child molester. It's terrifying.
And they dehumanize people to such a crazy level, and then they act like they have integrity and stand firm on human values that they wrap in their Bible. It's a while back I called you. I explained some of the abuse I had with my parents. I don't know if you remember that call or not.
It was earlier this year, as I recall.
My father, yeah. My father, he's been supporting a lot of insanity. And this is a man who is so mentally delusional that he'll literally post, he's a predator. And he knows it's a bunch of nonsense. And at this point, I'm pretty certain that as a kid growing up, he always said that he leaned on the Bible. And really what I think at this point what that means is what they're doing is they're leaning on the Bible for how they balance themselves in reality. But they have no integrity outside of that. If reality violates their dogma, they'd rather follow dogma than follow reality. I'm just like, but the contradiction is so obvious, and yet they don't want to admit reality. Is it simply narcissism that's their problem?
I think motivations vary from person to person. I do think there's an entire culture that just sees a monster under every rock for a number of reasons. Anybody who is not them is the other. And then they do that riff on they're coming for our children. How many generations have had to hear that shit? It doesn't matter what it is. Is it recreational marijuana? Is it rock music? Is it a Kiss album? Is it a drag queen? Is it what? I mean, just choose whatever villain they decide that they're freaked about, and then just add, we've got to protect the children to the end of whatever they're bitching about. And it makes me weary. But the upside is I see a lot of this panic as evidence that they may realize they're on the wrong side of history, or at least on the minority side of history, and they are becoming more and more irrelevant against the larger, more egalitarian culture, right? They see the writing on the wall where people are less judgmental, and they don't want to discriminate against gay people, and they want to protect trans people, and they think it's awesome that Tim Waltz has the backs of people of all ages for whatever identity, sexual or other, that they have. And they're great with that. I think maybe their panic is an indicator that something right is happening on the right side of the discussion. I don't know. Would you agree, disagree? Is that pie in the sky? Am I kidding myself, Josh?
No, I agree with you, but it's like something you said at the beginning that really hit a chord with me, because we both grew up I grew up in the late 90s, but you went through the 80s too. So the satanic panic is really what this reminds me of, like how every little thing was like hyper religified. If it's Pokemon, it's of the devil. If it's Dungeons and Dragons, it's of the devil. That's some gnarly stuff. And it's funny how all the people in Trump's cabinet when he was in office were all members, all their parents were actually members of the moral majority. So it's kind of like we're repeating the moral majority just in a different time period where there's more information. So they can't hide behind the bullshit as well as they used to, back then.
The moral majority, for those who aren't aware, was a political action group headed up by a bigot, evangelist, founder of Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Sr. And these people essentially went around.
May I?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I thought I would mention one of Hitchens' words. He called him a slimy little toad, but you're good.
Oh, it was Hitchens, I think, who said Jerry Falwell Sr. was so full of shit that if you were to give him an enema, you could bury him in a matchbox. Yeah, that was Jerry Falwell.
He did that on Fox News and on CNN, and one of the hosts of Fox News said, "How dare you say that?" So he goes, "Well, then you shouldn't have me on your show if you didn't want me to have integrity."
I think that was in the wake of Jerry Falwell's death, and they were doing a riff on why would you speak ill of the dead, especially when he's done so much good. But, Jerry Falwell was one of the guys, he and Pat Robertson blamed 9/11 on the fact that we were accepting gay people.
Oh,
those are the types. And
I remember that.
The othering is killing us. The othering, the vilification, the satanic panic is not over. But I would like to think, and maybe I'm just painting the silver lining, but I would like to think that one of the reasons they're so freaky and losing their mind is because they see the world around them as out of their control. And they think, holy shit, what are we going to do now? So let's hope that the good overwhelms the bad out there. Okay, Josh?
Thanks for all you do, Seth.
Thanks for calling. We'll catch you later. I want to talk a little more about Jerry Falwell. I pulled up a list of various quotes and things he said and done over his lifetime. I'm going to share those next, and then we'll go back to the phones. Quick break. Be right back. My previous caller had brought up Jerry Falwell. He was the founder of the Moral Majority. And this is one of those organizations that they always use things like freedom, family, liberty, moral to brand themselves as they go out and just say and do awful stuff, usually in the name of God. And they say it like that. I don't know if they all go to a preacher school where they learn how to inflect their voice like this. Jerry Falwell used to say his words. He used to communicate from the stage, the pulpit, align himself with the White House, and he would always have that sort of John Hagee vibe. Do they send people to a place, or do they grind them out of a factory and be like, all right, well, here's what a preacher's supposed to sound like? It's not as much the case these days with all the hip preachers. I'm going to talk to a hip ex-preacher next week. I don't know. I just find that interesting. But Jerry Falwell, he said some stuff that even all these decades later, long after his death, it remains just as offensive as it ever was. September 11th, he said this: the abortionists have got to bear some burden for this, right? The attacks of 9/11. The abortionists have got to bear some burden for this because God will not be mocked. And when we destroy 40 million little innocent babies, we make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who have tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen. The pressure on him was so bad, the blowback was so intense that he came forward afterwards and he did kind of that mitigation move where he's like, well, I meant it, but I didn't mean it. I was misinterpreted or something. Here's what he said about Martin Luther King Jr. Quote, I must personally say that I do question the sincerity and nonviolent intentions of some civil rights leaders such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Mr. James Farmer, and others who are known to have left-wing associations. Of course, it's the left wing that wants violence, moral anarchy. On feminists, Jerry Falwell Sr. said, I listen to feminists and all these radical gals. And yes, he used the word gals. These women just need a man in the house. That's all they need. Most of the feminists need a man to tell them what time of day it is and to lead them home. And they blew it, and they're mad at all men. Feminists hate men. They're sexist. They hate men. That's their problem. He had thoughts on climate change. I can tell you our grandchildren will laugh at those who predicted global warming. We'll be in global cooling by then. If the Lord hasn't returned, I don't believe a moment of it. The whole thing is created to destroy America's free enterprise system and our economic stability. It's a vast conspiracy to try to remove the American way. They want to control us by forcing people to act more responsibly in regard to the environment. Wasn't it the Jewish space laser claim by Marjorie Taylor Greene? She said that some Jewish cabal, some secret society of Jews, were flying a satellite over California using a laser to start the wildfires to choke the atmosphere with smoke so that those evil libs would be able to pass suffocating climate change regulation to strip Americans of their freedom and turn the United States into, communism. So it always comes back to communism and socialism and Marxism. It always comes back to that with these people. One more. Jerry Falwell Sr. thought the Jews followed a false religion. He said, in my opinion, the Antichrist will be a counterfeit of the true Christ, which means he will be male and Jewish, since Jesus was male and Jewish. Now, the Jews don't hold to Jesus, right? They have the Pentateuch, or the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, but they don't hold to, they're not New Testament people. Jesus, not the Messiah in that culture. So Jesus was male and Jewish. His counterpart will be male and Jewish. I have no idea where that comes from. If the Antichrist was the flip side, wouldn't it be a female and a non-Jew? Anyway, Jerry Falwell, he's one of those guys where he died, but he is not missed, if you know what I mean. Forgive the digression, but just a little context for you. I've got Matthew at 864. Thanks for waiting. Are you there?
Hey, Seth, I'm here.
What's going on?
I just wanted to say thanks. I want to tell a story. I hope you don't mind me bringing up the passing time, but let's say 10 or 11 years ago, I saw your the Thinking Atheist logo on a friend's dad's computer screen, and I was like, oh, atheists, what are atheists, I was like 13. And it just blew my mind that people believed God didn't exist. But now I've been listening to you for months, been keeping me sane.
Were you a Christian?
I was up until recently last year, and I kept listening to the atheist material online. I was like, oh, Seth Andrews. Seth Andrews is that guy from years back that person's dad was listening to. I was like, I just finally listened, and I was like, oh, it just makes so much sense. And the thing is, the things that really took me out, what allowed me to be honest finally with myself, was just realizing that I had thought all the same things before and just put them to the side. You know, like with the Mormons, they say put it on the shelf or something like that. And it took reading my Bible more and more, and I finally read enough to, you know, it was like enough reading the Bible and enough honesty to just let it fall.
Isaac Asimov has this quote, properly read, the Bible is the most potent force for atheism ever conceived. And I think there may be some truth to that.
Oh, I believe it.
If you read it correctly,
Absolutely.
You're probably not going to buy it.
That's right. Well, hey, I was thinking as soon as I realized, I was like, you know, if I was honest with myself, there's no evidence, there's nothing. And it was like I snapped and I was in a dystopia. You know, this is the election season. So, you know, rhetoric is hotter than usual. And you were saying sanity will prevail. I really hope it does. I've got hope. I think we have more hope than we've had in 8 years. When Kamala entered the race, I think it's reason enough to get excited. So I'm looking forward to November.
We have to be realists about the culture that has enabled what is happening. I mean, it's been a black light. The last 10 years, whatever, have been a black light on the bigotry and the cruelty and the hatred and the superstition, and those aren't going away. So you and I are probably in the same boat. We know that no one election, no one candidate, no one platform is going to fix all of this. This is going to be a long game. And long after whoever is gone from the office or from our headlines, the bigots and the charlatans, the cons, the grifters, the cruel, the tyrants, they will remain. And they're going to continue to oppress people and try to take all of the spoils for themselves. And I think we have to be realists about that. But I still want to hold on to, hey, righteousness will overcome kind of thing. So we'll just keep kicking, Matthew. And I feel you, and I appreciate your kind words, and I'm glad you found your voice. And thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, well, thanks for the time.
All right. Be safe out there. We'll catch you later. Saw the Thinking Atheist logo on a computer over a decade ago. I mean, you just never know. You just never know. Tremendously honored to hear those types of stories. And I'm so glad that you are here and part of this community, and that you have been with me and allowed me to be with you over the last, I guess it's 15 years, and we're still moving and shaking and debunking and learning and living together. And I'll keep going if you will. So thanks again for being here. Be safe. I will be back with ex-pastor, a guy named Timmy Gibson. He will be my guest on the show next week. Looking forward to that. We'll see you then.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.